pass to Johnson. Johnson still going. Dummies again. Johnson into the white of Brown goes in to score.
Ali Salvia down the touchline. Oh, this is unbelievable. They're gonna win it. Oh, what scenes here, what scenes. LeBron James, a shot at history. LeBron stands alone. The NBA's all-time scoring record now belongs to LeBron James.
Rever up, full Fizz Thursday, another episode of Surly Talk Sports off the back of a huge weekend last weekend. First look at the Warriors, plus we had the Super Bowl. Shout out to Full Time Sports Bar, one of the great events, sold out inside and outside. The day was an absolute hit. I can't wait to run it back, both for that and other events throughout this year too. It was unreal scenes and everyone who attended had a bloody good time, a massive success there. Couple winning punts, got in on tails, suggested that people jump on because tails never fails in the old coin toss pre the game. Big Fizz once that one came through. The rest of the bets, though, she was a real Daryl Tuffy, to be fair. I was all over Kansas City, as listeners of the pod last week would be aware. Geez, they got absolutely dominated, so that didn't age well. But you best believe I'll be reloading and having another flutter this weekend at the TAB. We've got the Warriors, we've got the Indigenous All-Stars game as well. Super Rugby kicks off on Friday night with that Blues vs Chiefs game on Saturday. That is a bums on seats barnstormer. NBA, you got the Black Caps as well in that ODI Tri-Series Final 2. Heaps of sport to have a punt on responsibly, of course. So looking forward to hopefully some green ticks on bet slips this weekend. She's another big pod today. Lots to chew through. All those sports I just mentioned there. Plus a special yarn with the great man, Jimmy Marshall, of course, Crusaders assistant coach and the man behind the Waddle Ad podcast. So let's kick it off with our conversation with him. I managed to grab him on his day off. It's always a pleasure to yarn with one of the greats himself, Jimmy Marshall, of course, assistant coach of the Crusaders and, more importantly, host of Waddle Ad. How are you, horse?
Good, mate. I tell you what, I'm missing our little weekly Super Rugby shows. I guess that's the downside of being a coach, is don't really have the time to be able to put in to get these weekly chats in with you, which I used to thoroughly enjoy. Your predictions. But here we are. We get one little sneak peek early in the season to run through a few things.
I think we're still waiting for some of those predictions to come through, unfortunately, aren't we?
Mate, you got your Blues victory. Geez, I wouldn't have picked that.
Yeah, that's true. The one year I jumped off too, got on the Chiefs because I was copping it so much from Shooter and the boys. So maybe I'm the curse, eh? But we'll actually start with Super Rugby Fantasy, bro, because that's something you've been pushing for a long time. Then I saw your stories. You can't have a league. Is that heartbreaking?
Yeah, mate, I was gutted. I was super excited. Finally got the opportunity to have a fantasy rugby comp and sort of promote the game. I was quite keen to get sort of a podcast going with yourself and a few others around it, but not to be. I see why I can't do it. Like, obviously, I do have a fair bit of inside knowledge, so I get that. And when money comes into it, if I'm walking home with 10K because I've won fantasy rugby for the fifth time in a row, people would start be getting pretty filthy. So I see why I can't do it, but I am gutted because I was pretty keen to try and promote that as much as I could, because I know the benefit that has for the game and people having this connection with players and fans just more invested into every game, not just their own games. So it's awesome that it's in there. I still see it probably being a couple of years away from being a really good fantasy rugby. Like, it looks pretty basic at the moment, but it's better than nothing. It's a start, and guys can make a team and follow the games a bit more intently. So yeah, it's awesome to see it finally live.
One of the positives we've seen already, and again, it's something you and I have been massive advocates for, is Team Naming Wednesday locked in now as a result of people needing to lock in their fantasy teams. It's almost crazy that this is what it's taken. And we get live injury reports, or we get more updated injury reports every Wednesday too. Like, that's huge, right? Just as a fan and for the media.
Yeah, it used to be, like we've spoken around, my biggest bugbear around Super Rugby, especially when you're trying to make some sort of fantasy team, you need that information as early as possible. I'm looking through some of those fantasy selections even at the moment, and I think the number one hook is a Safua Moore, but he's obviously out. The second one
Mm.
might be Cody Taylor, and he's out as well. So we've got all these hookers. Like, not many people actually have a hooker who's playing this week. So
Yeah.
I'm sure once Team Naming Wednesday comes around, people will be able to fix up their teams pretty quickly. And it's only a good thing. You start your rivalries, your matchup, you can pump up the game a lot more knowing who's playing. So it's a good initiative again.
Have you had or heard of much banter amongst the lads? Obviously, the prices have come out now. I saw the Waratahs did some social content around people not being too happy with their prices, some saying that they should be cheaper than what they are. Has there been much chat like that amongst the Crusaders lads?
Yeah, I saw that. That was quite good from the Waratahs social team.
Mm.
Most of the banter comes from me, to be fair, around
Yeah.
guys' prices or potential moves that might bump their fantasy points up. But like, obviously, I think Will Jordan's our most expensive, and I think everyone probably agrees that's fair. There's a few
Mm.
bargains in the squad, or a few guys who think they're relatively cheap. But I think it's probably quite good to be cheap as well, because then probably get bored a few more times. I'd probably rather be
Yeah.
a bargain than an absolute rip-off in that game. So, yeah, there's a bit of banter flying, and it'll only get worse once guys know how many points they've got each week. It's going to be good stuff.
Of course, preseason footy's over now, which is exciting as a fan. What's that like for you as a coach? Because I can imagine you're clocking in probably, November, December. It's probably a bit of a grind, and you're trying to come up with all these different scenarios, outcomes, how you want to play. Now it kind of all gets to happen in front of your eyes, and you get to see that product this weekend. Is it an exciting time for you as a coach compared to as you were as a player? Because I guess you've experienced both sides of it.
Yeah, it's definitely a different feeling as a coach. It's exciting though. Like, geez, those pre-seasons are quite nerve-wracking when guys start limping off, and you see
Mm.
some of those collisions. You just sort of hope that everyone gets through the pre-season safely. We ended up with a few casualties, but it's always going to be there's always going to be some. But yeah, just excited to get back out there Friday. I know the boys are real excited about playing at home against the Hurricanes to start too, so it's a hell of a matchup, and I'm sure the Christchurch fans will get in behind the Crusaders nice and early, and hopefully we can put in a performance, because I know the boys have spoken about it a fair bit, how gutted they were about how last year went, and it's left a pretty bitter taste in everyone's mouth. So I'm hoping to right a few wrongs of last year and put in some awesome performances, especially from the start.
Can you notice a real shift amongst the group? Like, I can imagine at times energy levels get pretty low because just fitness every day and bashing each other can take a toll. But now they get to lace up the boots and play some opposition, and the competition starts. Can you notice a bit of a change in intensity if you guys have a bit of a skip in their step all of a sudden?
Yeah, I felt it in yesterday's session. I think it was the most, there's probably the most edge about it. And it was probably one of our sharpest sessions of the year. So I guess in terms of like the load management and stuff, like, we've been smashing the guys pretty hard. So even going into those preseason games, so when we look at the performances, we're seeing some pretty tired bodies, but we understand why they're tired bodies, because they've had massive weeks to go into. It hasn't been a performance week.
Mm.
There's a few bits that come into the preseason where you look at the result and you can read as much into those as you want, but the guys are getting smashed going into those games. You're getting mixed and match players. Everyone's getting a run. Guys are on restricted minutes. So for the punters out there, betting off the back of preseason results is a fair warning. I'd avoid it. But
I'll take that. I'll probably ignore it, but I'll take it on board.
But yeah, definitely this week it's been really short, sharp. There's a different edge, and yeah, like I said, guys are keen to get into it on Friday.
Couple things around preseason, bro. I saw Kyle Preston, who had an impressive NPC season for the Lions. He's come down to the Crusaders. 413 Bronco post-Christmas, broke his record pre-Christmas. A, have you ever seen a Bronco done that quickly? And B, how gutted was he that he was 1 second off Bodie's record? Like, surely you got that 1 second in you. That's close enough where you're stoked, but you're also a little bit pissed off.
Yeah, like, he had nothing left. It was
Mm.
impressive. I hadn't seen a Bronco run like that live before. It was impressive to watch, and he was chasing Isaac Hutchinson too, who ran a really good one as well. He was leading into the fourth leg. It was like one of the great horse races where the favourite, he looked like he was gone at the turn, but he just kept fighting and fighting, and he ended up winning by about 2 seconds. And mate, when he crossed that line, he was absolutely wrecked. So I know he'd probably easy to say 1 second. It's not much, but I don't think he had a second in him. But he's incredibly fit. But even he was someone who said to me after the game, like he was blowing more than he ever was in that preseason game in the weekend, and around a massive week into a game, he probably hadn't done something like that before. He's still,
Yeah.
although he's 24, he's still relatively young training age, but really excited about the potential he has. Hoping to see a huge year from him.
Obviously, Preston's impressed. Is there anyone else that maybe you weren't as familiar with, or someone who you had reasonably high expectations of, but they're kind of blown you away in the preseason and thought, shit, this guy's a lot better footballer than I thought?
Yeah, the two tens have been really impressive for me. Taha Kamara and James O'Connor. Obviously, Rivers was going really well, but he suffered an injury, which is really niggly for him. He was looking to obviously probably start that first game, but the way Taha's come in on the back of no NPC, on the back of the season last year, man, he's just blown us away with his composure and his leadership and all the things that we've sort of given him feedback on. He's just coming out like a new man. He's just looks like he's growing up, and he's always had the skill set. So I'm super excited to see what he can do this year. And James O'Connor was someone we knew what he could do. Like from a rugby perspective, man, he's a smart. He knows the game. He's got 19 years of experience. Still can't believe he was playing at 17, Super Rugby at 17. He was saying he was too young to make the Australian under-20s, but a few months later he was named in the Wallabies. So that just shows you how young he was. He was like 18 at the time, and man, he's had some career, and he's an awesome guy to just talk footy to, and he's probably surprised me at how well he's gone on the field too. Like we knew he would be good, but man, he's really blown us away with his skill level, and obviously his organisation and stuff's really good. But man, he can still play. He's world class, and looking forward to seeing that combo and how that works, especially over the first few weeks.
Some big names back this year who didn't play a lot of minutes last year, and no doubt that's going to have a massive impact. Like everyone talks about the Crusaders' results last year, but when you look at the names that were constantly out week in and week out, it's chalk and cheese, really. You get back your Will Jordans, Braden Enoch, Scotty Barrett, those guys that should be in the saddle. Like how big have they been in this preseason? I guess the All Blacks came back a little later, but I can imagine the professionalism they bring. It's an instant lift.
Yeah, oh, massive. And the guy you said first, Will Jordan, he's such an influential player. Like he's probably one of the smartest footy players that I've worked with. He knows the game so well. Always challenging me and ideas and stuff. It's so good for me as a coach to be able to work with someone like that, and obviously has the skill set and speed and the ability to play to back it up on the field too. So he's been a massive addition. We thoroughly missed him last year. Braden's still injured, unfortunately. I'm sure they'll probably come out on Wednesday around the injury, but he's out for probably 5 or 6 weeks. He's missed the whole preseason, which has been a real shame. Scooter Barrett hasn't played preseason, but he's been training the last 3 weeks, and his leadership's influential. Even though he's not the captain anymore, he still definitely has a massive say in the leadership point of view. And guys like Davey has come back so keen. Obviously didn't play a lot of footy last year with the All Blacks, and he's got a few points he wants to prove. And captain now, I thought he was awesome in the weekend in his 40 minutes against the Highlanders. So I'm hoping for a massive year from him as well.
Yeah, new skipper, right? Which I think surprised a couple people because straight away in a team with Barrett and a Cody Taylor, people just assume that those are going to be your captains. David Havili certainly deserves it though. How was that whole process, and how stoked was he? Because that's the definition of a proud Crusaders man right there.
Yeah, mate. Like he is a true leader. Like he holds so much respect amongst the group. Like when he speaks, guys, listen. He always drives the standards. It was more selected by the players by anyone else. To be fair, like it was more mentioned to the players who should be the captain, and everyone sort of said Davey. So we never really felt like it was a choice for us to sort of decide. It was what the players who they wanted to follow, and it was him. So yeah, like he's gone leaps and bounds in that position, and I've seen him lead Tasman before. He's such an impressive captain, and obviously it takes the pressure off Scooter. He's obviously got All Black commitments, captaincy, and it's a lot to deal with as well. So, and calling a line out, and he'll still have his leadership responsibilities in the camp. But it's awesome that Davey can step up, and Davey's done it really well by delegating his leadership throughout the team. Obviously, using the likes of Ethan Blackadder, Cody Taylor, Scott Barrett, Will Jordan, all those guys, using their leadership as well. And I think it's going to be a really cool leadership group that they've got formed now. So, yeah, hopefully we can see that in the back end of games, them really stepping up and getting some of those close losses that we had last year, and really controlling the game into getting victories.
Lastly, on preseason, before we look ahead to this week, I saw the Manly Seagulls lads came across for a bit of preseason work. I think it was Luke Brooks, Ruben Garrick. Saw some photos on the Crusaders socials. How did that come up, bro? Because it seems like quite a random combination there, the Crusaders and Manly. Was it just those two? Is that a relationship you guys already had?
Yeah, it's been quite a cool part about being in the sort of Crusaders. We've had relationships with the Storm. We even had some Storm guys come over. Probably didn't get up on the socials, but we had Wishart and Jonah come over and run a couple of sessions with us. And Sea Eagles, the relationship just formed from Anthony Seabold and Rob Penny. I think they go back a few years, and Seabold came over and was really impressed with how we're doing things, and he gave us heaps of cool advice and ideas, and then he just said he'd be keen to send a couple of players over and vice versa if we were up for it. So they sent 3 players over, and they all got stuck into it. It was awesome having them all sort of jump into the mini groups and jump into challenges and even into training and just get stuck into it. It's cool. It's cool how you can just cross over sports like that and pick something up or learn from each other.
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities, and a lot of differences too, though. How did those guys kind of work fitting into the drills and things like that? Was there times where they struggled? Like the skill sets are pretty comparable, but it's a pretty different game at the same time.
Yeah, there's obviously when we're jumping into some of our shapes and stuff, they had no idea what was going on, but they'd always relate it to how they would do things and be able to sort of feed back around, man, when we're running that shape, we'd look at that. And we can talk around whether that would work for our game or not. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Like you say, there's definitely differences, but there's enough similarities in it that you can pick up a few bits of gold. Couple of our outsides called it Garrett Gold when he was speaking. He had a fair bit of wisdom, the old man, and he shared a lot of it through the young outsides. So they were all pretty impressed.
Because the Aussies also trained down there, right? When they were preparing, I think, either to play the Kiwis down in Christchurch. Did you manage to catch any of those sessions?
Yeah, I went and watched it, and I think there's about 4 or 5 of the guys who managed to run in and run for their non-13 or whatever they call it in league. So they were training against them, and they all said it was awesome experience, just rubbing shoulders with a lot of those NRL legends that they all follow very closely on Supercoach or fantasy, whatever they're playing. And it was cool to see. It was cool to watch. It was interesting how they train very differently. Like obviously when you're not doing scrums and lineouts, you get a lot of time, or rucks or mauls or anything. You get a lot of time to just run shapes at each other. So it was quite cool to see how they can just really nail the detail and get thousands of reps, just left side edge against right side D or vice versa.
Obviously, Joseph Suaalii made the move across, and straight away that's got people interested in the Waratahs. Was there anyone who caught your eye, mate? Maybe a potential Crusaders poach that you could grab from the Wallabies or Manly?
Well, Tommy Turbo is always someone that I'd be pretty keen to try and get across. Man, talking to the guys around him and how influential, like Luke Brooks said, I asked him, like, what was the difference between Manly and the other teams that he played, and he just said it was the fullback. He's never had comms and organisation from someone like that before, and just made his game so much easier. So I know it'd be probably hard for him to jump over to Union and give that same sort of comms because he wouldn't know the game as well. But man, he's just a freak athlete. He looked good out there. I'd love to even see him on the wing at the Crusaders, but yeah, I don't think we could match what he gets paid over there. I know he wants to pay it back, so maybe he might come over for free.
There you go, mate. Get the checkbook out, surely.
I'd love to see him give Union a go, but there's a lot of those guys who
Yeah.
be interesting. Nathan Cleary, he wasn't there, but I'd love to. I'm fascinated to see how he would go in Union. He's so good at league, just so dominant. So, and probably knows enough about Union to not have to upskill too much. But obviously, pivotal position would be tough. But I think if there's anyone who could do it, it's probably him.
Yeah, 100%. Similar topic, a little bit different though. We had that NBA trade last week, which kind of stopped the world. And I was speaking to Naito Akoi about it on last week's pod, whether he would be keen on a Super Rugby trade window. He wasn't up to it because he was of the opportunity that he could be drafted to like the draw or something and have to back up his life and his family. But from a coach and a fan's perspective, what's your thoughts on it, bro? Because obviously, even when you look around the competition here in New Zealand, you've got teams like the Blues with 4 starting first fives at the majority of other franchises. Like, do you think a trade window could be a cool opportunity to attract fans, keep the game on everyone's lips, and also just strengthen the competition and give guys minutes every week?
Yeah, definitely from a fan's perspective, 100%. I think it would be unreal if that could happen. Like I'm like you, try and even up the competition as much as possible. Even though I do feel like this competition this year is probably one of the most even it's been for a while, but we could definitely still even it up by, like you say, share a couple of those Blues 10s to different teams. That would definitely help. From a player's perspective, though, I'd be no chance because, man, I had to move so many times. And when you've got a family and a wife who is settled or kids who are settled at school, and especially now, like if I had 4 kids and I was told that I had to move next week to go play for the Drew or whatever, then that would be pretty tough. And we're not quite paid as much as the
Yeah.
NBA players, so like just buying a new home or all that sort of stuff comes a little bit trickier. Like especially if you're on like a $50,000 draft contract or whatever it is, and you've got to go find a new life and
Yeah.
you can't live with your parents anymore.
Mm.
It's a little bit unrealistic from a player's point of view, but I think a cool sort of middle ground would be either the draft for the schoolboy, like the talented schoolboys who everyone's after, how that would work. Because at the moment it's just a bidding war, and I feel like every team's overpaying for a lot of these young kids who aren't proven. So some sort of draft system, and that could be cool. Or guys put their hand up to be drafted, like potentially 5 or so guys in each team might want to, they're not getting the game time. It might be, I don't know, who is there? Harry Plummer, who's sitting behind Bodie, and Stephen Perifetta, as an example, and now feels like he would be open to moving to the Highlanders, as an example. But yeah, I think it would have to be a bit more of a middle ground than just the NBA style where it's just ruthless. You're gone and go find a new life over there.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I didn't think about the salaries, to be fair. It helps when you're making 120 million compared to 100 grand. So that's definitely something to factor in there. You mentioned competition gets underway this week and fans are fizzing, and you guys kick off the competition too. In a weird way, off the back of last year, it almost seems like from the outside looking in, you guys are coming in a bit as underdogs, right? Which is probably a bit of a different mindset for your franchise because of how dominant you've been. Is that the way it feels kind of in the camp? Are you guys running with that narrative a bit?
Oh, we haven't really spoken about being the underdogs or anything. I know everyone, I guess it's probably, like you're right, it's probably the first time in 7 years that we have been the underdogs. What we're paying, $7 or something. I thought the TAB were having a bit of a laugh with that. We're massive overs, I feel, but I've obviously got my eye patch on and I'm biased as well. But I do think that's, I thought we might have been a bit short. I understand Blues deserve to be favourites. Won the comp last year, picking up Bodie. They've got a really stacked squad. You're in good space, and I think the Chiefs deserve to be right up there as well. But I think our team on paper, when we're fully fit, we can match anyone, and I believe we'll win the comp.
Rate that. Obviously, the Canes have had a fair bit of change over this past year, and they're going to be a pretty new look side in certain positions. Are they a dangerous side? Home first up, you want to bank every home game, taking on a Canes side with guys in positions that have a point to prove and are being given an opportunity. Like, how dangerous is that as an opponent?
Yeah, I think they've got massive depth. I know they've got a pretty decent injury tally at the moment in crucial positions, but man, like we saw it last year how dominant they were, not just their first side, but they were able to make 17 changes last year and still dominate whoever they were playing. Like they were the depth in their squad, there's not much difference between their top players and their second players. Like you go through their loose forward. So I know Flanders I think he's out with potentially a broken leg or something now, but you've still got Karifi, Lakai, you've got Brad Shields, you've got Yosse, you got so much talent in there. Like you could play any of those combinations and you're going to have an awesome loose forward trio. And it's the same in the midfield. You know, you've got Briley Higgins, Peter Umaga Jensen, Proctor, Balin Sullivan. You could play any one of those four combinations and you've got a stacked midfield. So I feel like they're pretty much like that across the board. So although you can look at the injury tally and think they might be under strength, I think they're a very dangerous side and well coached as well. Highly respect Clark Laidlaw as a coach and Whopper and Brad Cooper and Corey Jane as well. I think they've got a really good coaching group up there and the best facilities. I don't know if you've been to the facilities up there, but man, they get to train in pretty awesome facilities, which probably helps as well. So definitely a team not to take lightly, and we certainly aren't on Friday night.
Yeah, you mentioned before that it's going to be a tight comp, and I reckon it's going to be as well. It's a top 6 this year compared to a top 8, and I think there could be 1 to 2 wins separating a lot of teams from playing finals footy and some not. I expect the Aussie teams to be better. The Drua at home are always going to be incredibly hard to beat. They've got 8 home games this year too. Moana with Ardi. Must be pretty exciting, right? Like every week you've got to be on because if you trip up, that could cost you at the back end.
Yeah, massively. And I look at the draw, and often you can sort of look at a couple of games where you're like, okay, we might be able to rotate a few players in that one, but you're looking at and you're like, there's no real opportunity to do that this year. Like, I don't think you can take any team for granted at all. And like you say, I think all those Aussie teams are going to be a lot stronger now that the Rebels are gone, which is unfortunate, but will strengthen up the competition. Looking at the Waratahs squads, I think the Reds look stacked. Brumbies are always there or thereabouts. I think what the Aussie teams might even get 2 teams into that top 6. I reckon they're going to be that strong, and I don't know which 2, but I think it's going to be a really close competition, like you say. Probably 1 or 2 bonus points might decide those last couple of spots. So something for every coach to be aware of.
The Tars excite me because obviously they came last year, but a result of this Melbourne Rebels no longer in the comp has seen them in particular. Their recruitment's been amazing. Are they the biggest improvers in your mind, do you think? Because on paper, that's a stacked team.
Yeah, squad wise, 100%. Like their squad, like you say, it's stacked now, and I guess it's just the challenge for them is how quickly they can form those combinations and all sort of settle on the style that they want to play and know that sort of identity. So they could be a team who have an incredible year, or they could be a team that is still a couple of years away. But the roster that they've got, there's no reason why they can't be there or thereabouts.
I appreciate you jumping on, bro. I know you're a busy man. It's your day off too, so sorry to drag you into the studio. Good luck for the first game of the competition, Friday night, up against the Canes. And you might have just convinced me as well, $7 to win the comp. You're right, on paper, you blokes are stacked. So, look, I've wasted $10 on a lot worse, so you might have got me across the line, mate, but go well.
No, always a pleasure, mate. Good to chat.
NRL, of course, first week of the preseason challenge done and dusted, and this week we get to see the rest of the teams lace up the boots for the first time in the competition. Before we get into those games, though, and of course your Māori versus Indigenous All-Stars game, some NRL news to cover off as always. Warriors co-captains, that's the biggest story from this week. Fish and Barnett, congrats to them, the 2 BMFs of the comp, named to lead the side together. Mana Mitch and JFH, aka Just Fucking Hearty. Seeing those 2 run out the tunnel together first, leading the lads out is going to be a terrifying sight for any opposition side, and I think this is a great decision too. It was interesting to hear Webby speak about them on Tuesday night at the season launch. He basically said Mitch was always going to be skipper, but from the day Fish arrived, the impact he's had on this side, the effect he's had on the younger lads in the team, the standards he's brought to the squad both on and off the field at training and just about their daily life. He basically said he needed to be skipper as well. So I think they've settled on this, and it was good to hear both Mitch and Fish complimenting each other and saying they're happy to split the role, because that often wouldn't be the case. Egos come into it and lads just want to be out and out captain. Webby, he also went on to describe them as yin and yang off the field. He said Mitch loves a yarn, Fish doesn't say much, and Fish even said himself on the mic that talk is cheap, he leads by his actions and not his words. But one thing Webby did say as well, once it comes to on the field, they're 100% aligned. Two of the game's biggest enforcers, Fish and Mitch, actually said as well it's nice to be playing together, not up against each other. So that was a nice touch. The current Kiwis skipper and a Kangaroos and New South Wales origin rep. That's a heck of a duo, and no doubt they'll be surrounded in the leadership group by guys like Wade, Walks, RTS, Chance, Curdy, Capes. They'll all be leading the lads in their own way as well. She's going to be a team effort, but I love this co-skip appointment, and I certainly think they are the two lads to lead us to the club's first premiership. How bloody good. Not so good news. Dallin Watene-Zelezniak, of course, first trial game last week, and he left the game after 8 minutes, clutching his wrist. There was hopes the injury wouldn't be that bad because he didn't leave straight away, had a bit of ice on it, then came back onto the bench, sat there and watched the rest of the game with the boys. But unfortunately, the NRL physio, he's reporting that Dal has broken the wrist. He's waiting surgery, and he could be out for 2 to 3 months, which is a huge blow to walk away from our first trial with. And hopefully, Dal, he's a fast healer, and he can get out there quicker than that. He's a crucial part of our back three and our attack in general. He's a great leader as well, with plenty of experience. I'm gutted he won't be making the trip to Vegas for round one. I'm sure he was excited at the opportunity to play at Allegiant Stadium and be a part of this historic event. Big loss, one of the game's great finishes. We do have some options there to roll out on the wing, and I'll be interested to see as well if this affects the club's direction moving forward short term, just with those final 3 roster spots. We've got about $1 million in the salary cap. Do they go out and look for some wing depth, or are we happy with the young bucks coming through? Like I said just then, there's plenty of them, so either way, I think we've got options, which is the main thing. Sticking to wingers, someone rumoured to be heading to the Warriors from the Mole, who I must say is now about 0 from 70 on his takes. It seems like he can't quite nail one at the moment with his inside information, but Ronaldo Mulatalo, he's extended with the Sharks for 3 years, a great get for them. Unfortunate for fans who dared to dream that perhaps the Kiwi winger could be coming back to his hometown. Not to be though, so on we move, and well done to the lads from Cronulla for locking down their superstar winger. Right, Warriors game review, of course 12-all draw with the Sharkies. It was just a trial, so I won't go too crazy in depth on the review, but I jotted down some bullet points live in the game as I always do, so I'll run you through those now. Your main talking points for me on attack: I really like the look of our attack at times. I thought our short passes, our interchange between the middles was really crisp. Walks, Demi, Barney and Clark in particular, their ability to both truck nut but also ball play, nice little tip balls to each other and then feeding our halves on shifts. I think that really helps compress opposition middles, and it creates some space on the outside. That Demi and Walks combo in particular, leading to that try for Chance, I thought that was looking really nice. I think the more we can get the hands free, fire up the Bluetooth, play some offloads in second phase footy, the better we will be. It's almost a mix of the Warriors of old, but also the Warriors of new, playing offloads, but doing so in a controlled fashion. I really thought in the first half in particular, when we had our strongest side on, that our interpassing looked really slick there. I thought Chance was great at the back too, and it seems people are still not happy online in the comments. I'm not sure how much more you could ask him to do. Listen to these stats he pumped out. He had a try assist for Tane, 179 run meters, 6 tackle breaks, 4 from 4 on defense, in the hardest position to defend really, because you're always one-on-one taking on guys off the back of line breaks. Mr. Savers Houses delivering yet again. I thought he was unreal. I thought Luke Metcalf was really good too. His first shift in the 7, LM7. His kicking game was good. banged out a 40-20, had a couple nice attacking nudges as well. One that should have led to a try to Tamare Martin, tried to bat it over to Kossi while he was over the line. Not quite sure he was aware of where he was on the paddock, but I loved him in the 7. I thought he led the team around really well, and as a first knock, he's only going to get better too. I also like those sweeping plays we ran where we saw him get the ball at third receiver. I think it was walks to Tamare to Luke on a left edge shift. If you can get him the ball sweeping, allow the Ferrari to use his speed as well, he's going to skin opposition sides, create overlaps, and that should lead to points. I heard Webby say we're going to attack a little differently to other sides this year. Maybe that was an indication of some shapes we're going to throw at teams. I reckon that looks incredibly dangerous. I thought Sam Healy was good too. I told you last week that Waz fans would be all over him after this first game, and that's exactly what has happened. Everyone now wants to see him in the 14 jersey, and so do I. He's a gun. He's a genuine ball-running 9. He's a big lad too. He's added some size. Warriors put up a shirtless pic of him at the old team walk around Cronulla Beach on your Friday morning rig out, and he certainly looks the part. He was strong defensively too. For me, I reckon he just gives us another punch of X factor that we're going to need at stages throughout the season, and I'd love to see him play his way onto the bench. I do know he's in jersey 18 this week, so that's a sign perhaps that he's incredibly close. On the other side of the ball, defensively, I liked our line speed on D in the first half. I thought last year we found ourselves at times sitting on our heels, waiting for teams to come to us, just giving away easy yardage in the middle. But led by Fish and Barnett, I thought we went after them. Then you got Marata, Clark, Demi, Wade. We've got some hitters and some aggressive lads in our pack this year. I liked our scramble efforts too. I thought whenever they skinned us out wide, we got back in good numbers, which of course was a problem for us last year. At times our wingers can jam, and I didn't think we were making enough of an effort to cover up for that, but it looks like we've addressed those issues this year, so I thought it was positive signs on D. I also thought our young lads in that last 20 to 30 minutes, the majority of them played pretty well too. I was really impressed with Lukey Hansen. I thought he was great on D. Didn't get many opportunities with ball in hand, but shit, with that short stature, that low to the ground build, every shot he puts in is a rib tickler, and he dominated the collisions, which is great signs for his future as well. Overall, glad we played the majority of our round 1 side to blow out the cobwebs, get those little errors out. There was always going to be rust on the chassis. Of course, these lads, they go at each other all preseason long. It's physical. They're wrestling and doing all that shit, but it's completely different when you get to a game and come up against an opposition. It's only natural that there's a massive step up in intensity, and with that comes little errors, just guys being out of time, handling mistakes, uncharacteristic things. So I think it was good to get that out of the way early, and I am expecting an improvement this week. My standouts for me, picked out 5 of them: Healy, Metcalf, Demi, Tane, and Chance. Your negatives from that, Dallins' wrist, of course, and then just this whole play the ball crackdown. And I said to a few lads pre-game in a couple of group chats, I said, watch this play the ball crackdown really cause us nightmares tonight, and that's exactly what happened. And this will be one of those rules. They go hard on it for maybe 4 to 6 weeks, the first month or so of the competition, then they'll ease off and it'll go back to how it was. I get the ruling behind it, and I'm actually a fan of it. Slows down the play the ball in a ruck a little, because shit, it was getting fast. But man, it's frustrating at times, especially when you're on attack. Getting a roll on, you built up momentum, tackle 4, get yourself into the red zone, and then all of a sudden it's a turnover. The players, it's on them though. They do need to be better, especially when under fatigue, because they can get a little lazy. But I can't see this rule being that heavily policed throughout the season. I think trial games, they're really going to crack down on it, and then she'll die out from there. This week, more trial games, plus we get the All-Star game, which I'm really looking forward to on your Saturday night. Thursday night footy, though, that is back tonight. How good? Raiders versus Sharks. Keen to watch the Raiders in this one. Of course, our round 1 opponents. And for them, Ricky Stewart, he's named a strong squad. It's basically their team that I expect to trot out against us in Vegas, just missing Joseph Tapine. And then I think they would be at full strength. For the Sharkies, they're rolling out their stars too. Nico Hines, Braden Trindle in the halves. Interesting to see Hines at 7, Tricky Trins at 6. Lots of chat over the off-season that those two might switch, but Fitzgibbon has stayed with them. Adam Fanor-Blake, he gets his first trot at his new club. Britton Nickera, Teague Wilton, Cam McInnes. Jesse Ramey in the ramen noodle, and of course Ronaldo Mulatalo, they are all back on deck as well. I like the Sharkies in this one, but I'll be keeping a close eye on the Green Machine and the way they play with Fogarty and co. back in the mixer. Freaky Friday, your full fizz Friday doubleheader. Knights versus Para at 8, Cowboys versus Finns at 10. First hit out for these two sides, lots of fringies getting a crack. Keen to see the battle of the halves in this one though. That's the main focus point here for me. Fletcher Sharp wearing the 6 for the Knights, and he's going to be paired up with Jack Cogger. They'll be up against Dylan Brown and the incredible Volk, Ronald Volkman for Parramatta. Cowboys versus Finns, that's B-Team City. No real talking points in that one. One for the purists for sure, but you best believe I'll still be watching it while cracking open a couple of tins on me Friday night. Super Saturday, strap in. Wah's final preseason game kicks us off before we board the plane to Sin City, 3:30 in the Tron. Interesting to note too, both our game and Canberra's game, that's going to be played on a modified field to replicate Allegiant Stadium, and the smaller playing field we'll be playing on in Vegas. Of course, those grounds built for NFL, so they're going to be modified in length from 100 metres to 94.5, and then in width from 68 metres to 63, so about 5 metres give or take shorter in terms of length and narrower in width. Doesn't sound like much, but it does make a big difference, especially when you're so used to those dimensions. So I think this is great for us, a good chance to adapt early, and it's going to make a big difference because I think we saw last year in those two games, sides did take a little while to adjust. Webby, he's rolled out a strong side for our final hit out too, bar the lads in the All-Star game and a couple that picked up little niggles. This is basically us at full strength once again. Remember, week off next week too. Chance to rest up the rigs, so I think this is a great decision from him. In the one jersey, we have the pocket rocket, Tain Tuopiki. Of course, no chance, so Tain gets a crack at the back. It's interesting too, because I'm sure Tain was named in that Māori All-Stars team, so he must have prioritised minutes with the Wars, and I think that's a great call. He's a real chance now with Dal out to push his way into that starting 13. He was so good on the wing last week, so I think he's made the right decision here long term, despite no doubt wanting to represent his Māori heritage. On the wings, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck lacing up for the first time this year, recovered from that little training niggle last week, and I'm keen to see him eat some metres and whack some middles on those kick returns and yardage carries. Can't wait to see him play on the sting. The other wing, Big Ed Kossi, looking to shake off a real mixed bag last week and put his hand up for Vegas selection in that vacant wing spot. Ali Leatoa and Eddie Iramia Toiava are your centres. Adam Pompey unfortunately had to withdraw from Māori All-Stars. He's picked up a bit of a knock as well. Wasn't going to be available for the Warriors, so this was going to be our centre pairing either way. I'd love to see us get Ali more ball, early ball this week as well. Only 6 runs last week for 68 metres, so he did well making the most out of those carries. I think 30-odd PCMs too, so he's tough to tackle. Still had 3 tackle breaks, made all his hits too, didn't miss a tackle defensively, so a solid showing there. But I think he's got superstar strike centre potential, so we need to feed the beast with some early ball. For Eddie, I'm excited to see him get his first proper start here. His first NRL trot last week. Last year he played centre, prop and second row for New South Wales Cup. He's so versatile. Recently extended his contract in the off-season. He'll be fighting to make the 17, and with a couple injuries he could play his way in. Still only 19, I believe he is. An absolute weapon. The future is bright for that bloke. Tamaire Martin and Metcalf, again partner in the halves. Another opportunity for these two to fight off Chanel Harris-Tavita and Tanner Boyd, and I've got to feel a little sorry for Tanner. No preseason games. You'd have to think that rules him out of Vegas, and he's going to have to play his way in from New South Wales Cup, but maybe Webby has other ideas. Your props, Bunty R4 and Jackson Ford, they partner up. I was really impressed with Bunty last week, actually. Punched out 93 metres off 8 carries. Defensively, though, made 30 tackles for just the 1 miss. He looks fit, jawline of doom on show, and he looks ready to fight for a bench spot. Jacko Ford, his first run of the year. Don't think he played in the back end last year either after picking up an injury towards the end of the season. You just know what you're going to get from him, a hard-working middle. He'll do the tough carries. He'll tackle his dick off all game long. He can go the 80 as well, which makes him a great option too. He's versatile, so handy for the bench. Keen to see how he goes. Wade Egan at 9, skipper as well. He was great last week, as he always is, in for another huge year. Hopefully scenes of 2023 for him. In the second row on the edges, Dimitri Vaimolga and Curdy Capewell. I'm excited to see Demi on an edge. There could be a late change there potentially. Of course, Laban was named to start on an edge last week. Then Murata got the nod. But if this is how we start the game, I'll be watching Demi closely because we've seen how damaging he can be in the middle, and he made that transition last year, playing more of your prop 13 after coming through as a second rower. He could be freaky on an edge for us, so watch this space. In the 13, you got Aaron Clark with walks off the bench in 14 again. Loving this dynamic. I think it worked well last week, and I thought Clark did bloody well in his first knock too. He starts the game, does the tough stuff, hits hard, strong ball runner too, really underrated pickup for us. And then you get walks to come on in the odd 20 to 30 minute mark, inject some speed, some foot speed, some ball playing. We play a little more lateral against a tiring defense. I reckon that's the perfect combo. In 15, Hakuna Murata. 16, holy hecka, here comes Leka, his first run for the young gun this year. Keen to see him build on an impressive couple debut games last year. Then in 17, Tommy Ale, his first trot as well. Your extended bench, talk of the town, Sam Healy, Tanner Stowers-Smith, Freddie Lussick, Chanel Harris-Tavita, who'll be pushing hard to stake his claim for the 6th jersey. Geronimo Doyle giving us some fullback cover. He's been impressive for the cup side for a couple seasons now. Lukey Hansen, no relation to the Mbop brothers. Kalani going, Moala Graham Tolfa, Sio Kali, who I thought looked good last week and actually cracked up. Had a bit of push and shove with the Sharks winger, and the Sharks winger looked keen. Sio Kali just pulls up his shorts like the old MMA street fighters do, and the bloke dropped his sack straight away. You don't mess with someone who does the old short tug pre a bit of biff. Then you got Motu Posikala as well, who had a rough night last week. Still only 18 though, new to the game, has massive potential, so hopefully he'll be better for that knock, and I think it's crucial we play him in this game just for his confidence levels. And then to round us out, Jet Cleary, who looked solid last week too. For the Melbourne Storm, Stefano Utuikamanu steps out in Storm colours for the first time. So Fa'alongo, the Goosey God, the king of the GPMs, he wears the 1. Tyron Wishart, he's also out there, probably their next biggest names. Those are their big 3 this week, really. Setu 2, he gets a crack on the wing against his old side too, so he'll be one to watch. Unfortunately, no Moses Leo this week, who picked up a knock at training, but he said he's hoping to debut next week against the Cows, so hopefully that's the case and rest up their big fella. Overall though, strong Waz side, second string Storm side with a scattering of first graders in there. I'm keen to see how we go this week though. The keys for me are just building on last week, ironing out some of those little errors we were making and really getting things humming in our final hit out pre-round 1. We should be too strong for this Storm side, but this Melbourne team will never roll over, and Bellamy will still be treating this like a grand final. I reckon it's going to be a good watch for the Tron faithful, and hopefully the boys can go on the road and pull off a big win. After that, Manly versus Bunnies. Biggest talking point for the Bunnies, Englishman Lewis Dodds get the first crack in the 7 jersey. He's probably the biggest watch there. For the Manly side, no big dogs for them. One thing to note though, Lehigh Hopewadi named at the back either. He's not in their best 17, or they're hinting at a turbo switch of position to start the year, maybe in the centres. Personally, I think it's more the first one, and Lehigh's missed out on a wing spot. It seems crazy he can't make that side, though. He was bloody impressive for them last year, and then also played really well for Tonga, too. Super Sunday, triple header. You got the Broncos versus the Titans, Battle of Brizzy from Toowoomba Sports Grounds. One of the great venues right there. Bronx, no real stars for them. Kobe Hetherington at 13 will be an interesting watch for fantasy, though. Lots of chat. He'll start there. Paddy Carrigan making the shift to the middle. So watching that one closely. For the Titans, Kieran Foran, he'll wear the 7 jersey and skipper the side, although all chat is that he's going to wear the 14 for them this year, with Brimo and Jaden Campbell partnering in the halves. Interesting to note, Brimo in at 6 in this game too, so that suggests Campbell will wear the 7. which I find quite peculiar. Phil Sammy, Mo Fotuwaika, Bo Fermor, David Fafita. She's a strong Titans team. Basically, what you'd assume would be their starting 13 without Keanu Kenny and AKP because they're at All-Stars. Tino Fa'asua Malawi not out there, but all talk he will be back for their season debut round 2 against the Dogs because they have the bye first up. Then you got Dogs versus Tigers after that. Jamin Salmon, Sammy Hughes, Drew Hutchinson, Blake Taff, Blake Willison, probably their biggest names. I'm keen to see Zion Ma'u lace up in jersey 23, see what kind of role he plays in his first trot for his new club. For the Tigers, Jarrell Skelton, former Bulldog, makes his debut for them up against his old team, Lockie Galvin. He'll run the cutter in the 6th jersey, but no Luai, no Taruva, no Jack Bird, no Royce Hunt. They'll be held out for next week. And then your final game of the preseason challenge for this week sees the Dragons take on the Chooks, two old arch rivals. Shane Flanagan, he's named a near full strength side for this game in typical Flano fashion. Clint Gutherson, Damien Cook, they'll both line up. Kyle Flanagan will partner Lockie Ilias in the halves. Imre Gula, he'll be in the propping jersey alongside Toby Couchman, who could be a good watch for fantasy too. They could be some nice value buys. I'm keen to see how the young gun Loko Pacifici Tonga goes if he gets a run off the Rimu too. A massive body, and they've got huge reps on him as well. For the Roosters, Chatty Townsend slots in at half for his first game for the boys from Bondi. Sandon Smith will partner him too. Victor Radley, Nat Butcher, Spencer Lenu, Dom Young. Those are your headline acts, but personally, I'll be watching the centres closely. Mark Nawanga-Netoasi and Robert Toya, both looking to push for starting spots, and both with massive potential, especially on attack. They could be some nice fantasy pickups as well. Finally, your All-Stars game. Let's tuck into that before moving on from all things rugby league. 10-10 she kicks off on Saturday night from Combank. Sounds like a Tiger song. Rack City, I believe it was. 10-10-10 repeated in that chorus multiple times. But this is a dusty time slot for Kiwi fans. 10 past 10 footy on a Saturday night. If you got plans, that's going to make it a tough watch. Otherwise, I recommend chucking her on at pre-drinks before heading into Danny Dallins for a bit of background entertainment. It's actually a hissing Saturday of sport, to be fair. Wars into Blues vs Chiefs, into the All-Stars. Strap yourself in. She's a bad night to be a better bear. For the Indigenous All-Stars, they've named a solid side, perhaps not as stacked in recent years as some of the teams, but they've still got a shit ton of talent and star power. Hammer at the back, Munro and Cam Pereira, couple of Ferraris there on the wings. Jackie Boy Wyden, Connor Watson and Josh Curran, probably the biggest names in this team. For the Māori All-Stars, they're stacked. Love to see it. Kalen Ponga, he'll wear the 1 jersey for the first time in an All-Stars game since 2020. A lot of people up in arms. Plays for Aussie, plays for Queensland. How can he represent the Māoris? It's because he's got Māori heritage, and this to me is what this game is all about. Giving guys who normally wouldn't have the opportunity because they've chosen other countries like your Dane Gaggais a chance to represent their proud heritage. I think it's absolutely play on for me, and I'd love to see KP play for the Kiwis. But that's a topic for another day. We've got Chance Nickel Klukstad starting at 5'8", along 8% Cody's Nikarima, Dane Gagai in the centres, Willie Warbrick fully bricked up on the wing, Fisher Harris, Royce Hunt, Jeremy Marshall King, Pretty Ricky, Jacob Laban and Leo Thompson. That is a fucking scary forward pack. There's going to be hissing huckers pre-game too. And then young gun Keanu Kenny to unleash some spark off the pine as well. I've got the Māoris 13 plus in this game. Lock them in. So that's your rugby league chat for this week. Next week's pod, ladder predictions. Then the week after that, I'll be coming to you live from Las Vegas. Probably dusty as fuck. Could even be live from the old pokey machines or the blackjack table. She's going to be unreal times. But this week, we focus on the Storm and the Māori All-Stars. Get up the lads. Weekly wrap, shout out to the Black Caps, of course, going about their work overseas. It seems crazy. Super Rugby, NRL, Black Caps, your summer and winter sport crossover. She's all go at the moment. We're 2 from 2 in the ODI Tri-Series so far. We bet Pakistan, we bet South Africa, so we've qualified for the final tomorrow night, Friday night. Love to see it. Also glad to hear the shin is okay. Took a nasty blow in that game against Pakistan, I think it was. A bit of a catch, fielding deep, lost the ball in the light. night ended up being a falcon with a cricket ball. Not ideal. He looks to have shaken it off, though, and by all reports, he's going to be fine. So glad to hear, because that could have been a much different outcome. And get well soon, the shin. Hopefully he can lace up. Haven't heard that he won't be, but odds are he probably won't, to be fair. NBA, bit of a check-in on that season. Lakers smoked Utah in Luka's debut for the year. Wasn't his best performance. I think he only played, 24-odd minutes. Coming back from an injury, of course, and he's still got to adapt to the shock of just being traded. No longer at Dallas. Now he's in LA, so they're going to ease him in. Lakers looking bloody good, though. That's now 6 straight wins on the trot to sit in 4th on the West. You got to love that. Nuggets, speaking of win streaks in the West, they're on a 7-game streak as well, sitting in 3rd in the West, and considering how shit they were to start the year, everyone was putting a line through them, myself included. Man, if they turned their season around without making big trade moves either, they simply just adjusted their rotations and starting lineups, and now they're playing bloody good basketball as well. Golden State looking much improved with Jimmy Butler in the lineup now. Him and Draymond Green together, pretty locked down on defense, and they pumped the Bucks on Tuesday. Good to see Jimmy Buckets playing hard again. He's in my fantasy team, and shit has he been frustrating to hold on to during all this saga. Wasn't even down as out either, so you couldn't chuck him in your IR spots, but hopefully now he can repay those owners that stayed faithful. Some good games today. It's a stacked card. Shit ton of basketball action. The picks of the bunch for me: Spurs versus Celtics, Bucks versus T-Wolves, Suns versus Rockets, Warriors versus Mavs, and Grizzlies versus Clippers. Those are probably your best games, with Lakers Jazz V2 at 3 p.m. as well, which I'll certainly be watching. I saw as well that first Lakers Jazz game, everyone got a Luka t-shirt. Classy touch there from the best organization in basketball for as long as LeBron is there, because I'm well and truly a bandwagon fan of his that will just follow him into battle. Used to love the Cavs, but it is what it is. Super Bowl. Of course, Super Bowl 59 went down on Monday. Shout out to Full Time. As I mentioned in the intro, it was a hissing day. Indoor, outdoor, both sold out. Outdoor has to be the best setup in New Zealand at a pub that I've seen for a live sporting event. I believe they're running it back for the Wars in Vegas and several other sporting events this year as well. So get yourself a ticket. I've had a shit ton of people message me since saying, shit, that looked like good fun. Can't wait to get amongst it next year. And I believe we're going to run it back bigger and better, so stay tuned closer to the time for more details on that. But she was an absolute domination, a one-sided affair. Didn't see the scoreline coming, to be fair. Of course, the Eagles, for me, they've been the best team in the NFL, or the better team, I should say, out of these two all year long. I don't quite think they were the best team, but they were right up there in the mixer. But 40-22, I just thought the Patrick Mahomes factor would at least keep the Chiefs in this game, if not winning it, just because he's so clutch and loves the game's biggest stage. But that Eagles pass rush was just all over him. They gave him no opportunities to be that clutch player that he is. That Chiefs O-line just got swallowed up. Josh Sweat had himself a field day. And I think I saw a stat. The Eagles had 6 sacks despite not blitzing once in this game. That right there is embarrassing scenes for the Chiefs. Saquon had a pretty quiet night by his standards, just 57 rushing yards, but the birthday boy gets his first ring, and both birthday boys in this one, both Saquon and Cooper DeJean, both had outstanding games for the Eagles. No doubt they sent it to celebrate. I saw some clips of Saquon doing shotguns in the sheds. That's club footy at its finest, so that brought a smile on my dial. I thought Jalen Hurts looked great, and he walked away with the MVP as a result. Calm and composed for such a young lad. Came up with big plays when he needed to, but just ran the cutter. Did have a turnover, his first one in 9 games, but it didn't cost them too much because that Eagles D was just pure lockdown. I'm interested to see how the Chiefs bounce back next year, and Patty Mahomes in particular, because that bloke hates losing. If you've watched that quarterback's Netflix documentary, he literally can't lose at anything in life. So I know he's in for a rough summer over in the States. He's going to be on the grind, crunching film and just scheming up ways with him and Andy Reid together to right the wrongs of this year, because he'll feel embarrassed too. Many people weighing in now saying that that's the end of the Tom Brady-Mahomes GOAT debate, and they're putting a line through him there. So he'll come back fired up if the Chiefs as an organization can make some moves and get him an O-line too to really set the platform for him to exceed. then geez, a fired up Mahomes and a scary Chiefs side looking to come back and change the narrative post-Super Bowl, then that could be a bloody interesting watch. At the same time, though, lots of people just saying the Chiefs have had their time. It's so hard to win in American sports. Salaries and all that you got to juggle too. They were looking to be the first team to win 3 on the straight, and maybe they've just had their time. The league has caught up and overtaken them now, and that's just how it's going to be moving forward. UFC 312, of course, went down in Sydney. Drickus walks away with his belt. Strickland walks away with a nose broken in 6 places. Reminded me of that guy off the longest yard. That thing was looking bloody nasty. It was a good day of fights, though. I thought for a card I'd rubbished massively in the lead up. Every fight delivered, and this one was way better than I expected. She was a good watch. Speaking of good watches, this last talking point certainly wasn't one of those. Liverpool, what the fuck are we up to? Losing 1-0 to Plymouth Argyle in the FA Cup, with Plymouth becoming the first club from outside the Premier League to beat a team in the top flight since Wigan eliminated Man City in February 2018. That's embarrassing stuff, and to make things even worse, Plymouth, they're not even doing well in the Championship. They're coming last this year. They've only had 5 wins from their 30 games. Look, on we march, we're going to bounce back. We rolled out the B, C, maybe even D team, rested Riggs because we're doing so well in so many competitions and the workload on the lads has been massive. But this just goes to show you can't always just rest everyone. You can't take any game lightly. We got tripped up and embarrassed as a result. I think we're going to pump Everton this morning and show that Liverpool are still the team to beat. So lots going on your weekly wrap. Up the Caps, up the AFC, up the pool, and up the Lakers. That's your main takeaways for this week. Bust out your TAB apps and let's have a flutter on this weekend's sporting action. Lots of options. A nice diverse portfolio for us this weekend. We'll start off with the Super Rugby, of course, that competition underway proper this week. And I reckon there's some chances to pull off some upsets here and get some wins at pretty juicy odds. The first game, Crusaders versus Canes, I don't see this being an upset. Satyrs $1.70 favourites, the old Cranberry Cruisers. The Hurricanes, the Swirls, $2.15. The line is set at 1.5. Your best backed winning team in margin is Crusaders 1-12. For me, the Canes, no Safawa, no Flanders. That's to go with no Lomax or Love, no TJ, no Artie, and no Geordie Barrett either. That's some big blows for them. The Crusaders, yes, they're missing a couple as well. No Cody Taylor, but in George Bell, they have a more than capable replacement. I just think on paper they're going to be too strong. Neither side has a real genuine first 5 either, so I think you can cancel those 2 out and then make your judgment off the back of the rest of the team. Satyrs at home, like them head to head, like them on that 1.5 line, and I like them 1-12 as well. Waratahs versus Landers, the second of your Friday night fizz-ups. Tars, $1.46 favourites at home. The Landers, $2.65. The line here is 5.5, and your best back winning team in margin is Tars 1-12. I'm backing the Tars at home in a tight one. I think they're the real deal this year, of course. Came last year, but they've been the biggest beneficiaries of the Melbourne Rebels no longer being in the comp. They've recruited bloody well from other Super Rugby franchises as well. I like them here. They've got the bye next week as well, so they'll want to bank this dub at home to start their season in a winning way. I do think it'll be tight, so I'm going to get on them 1-12. Head-to-head, your safest option there. Would love to see the Landers go over to Sydney and trip them up. Joseph Suali'i, though, he's just so good looking. I think that's going to prove to be a big factor. After that, you got the Drua at home against the Brumbies. This one's a barnstormer coming to you live from Suva as well. Drua $2.25. Brumbies $1.62. The line here is 3.5, and your best backed winning team in margin is Brumbies 1-12 at $2.80. Now the big factor here for me, the Drua, they're playing at home. They won 6 of their 7 games at home last year. The weather forecast for Suva, she's raining cats and dogs. 31 degrees, it's humid as fuck. Sweaty sack season, that's for sure. Plus 88% chance of thunderstorms. Add to that, the Fijian crowd will be fired up. Their first game of Code live this year. They're literally going to be hanging from the rafters, climbing trees just to get bums on seats for this. The Drua at home, something just feels so weird going against them. Brumbies, they're that Aussie side you can pencil in every year. 3rd or 4th, on the ladder. You just chuck them into play finals footy. They're so consistent. This is a tough start for the Drua too. Equally, a tough start for the Brums. I like the Drua here on an alternative line of plus 6.5, but there's every chance $2.25 is great buying. They can certainly win this game. I think it's going to go right down to the wire. After that, the second game on your Super Saturday, a repeat of last year's grand final. Blues taking on the Chiefs at the Garden of Eden. Blues $1.40 favourites. Chiefs $2.75. I was a little bit shocked to see that price for them. The line is 5.5, and your best backed winning team and margin is Blues 1-12. Of course, Sam Derry, huge loss for the Blues. That news broke last week. If they pick up an injury to Paddy Tuipulotu, then they're in real trouble in their locking stocks. No Hoskins either, of course, pulled out of that All Blacks 15 tour last year with a bit of a knee niggle. I thought he was faking it, just didn't want to go on tour, wanted to be eligible for England at the back end of the Super season. Turns out there's probably a little more to that, and he won't lace up, I believe. Again, recording this before team naming Wednesday this afternoon, so chances are I'm a little bit wrong. The intel I've got, though, Bodie at the back, Harry Plummer at 10. They got a shit ton of strike weapons, still the Blues, but I just think the Chiefs, they're going to be up for this one. Of course, Naitoa on the pod last week, he mentioned, geez, that's been a massive stone under their towels all summer long, just the way they got bullied in that final last year. The forwards, they got told to bulk up and toughen up, and I reckon they're going to have a point to prove. They're going to be out for redemption. So I'm going to take the Chiefs here, head-to-head at massive value. If you want to play a little bit safer, I like that 5.5 line. I also like the alternative line, and I don't mind that try-bet option too of either team to win within 7.5 points. I just think the Chiefs get this job done, but backing against the Blues, who never lose, especially at Eden Park, that is a dangerous job as well. So the more I talk about it, the more the try-bet stands out to me. Then Force versus Moana, the final game of the weekend, and this one should be a goodie as well. The Force $1.36, Moana $3.05. The line is 7.5 rugby union points. Your best backed winning team and margin, Force 13+. I think that's a little bit harsh. I have the Force coming last on my predicted ladder, so I hope Moana can pull this one off at big odds. $3.05, the Savia effect. I reckon they're going to be up and about. $4, 1-12. I reckon that'll be the margin too. I do expect it to be a tight game in Perth. Not easy to go over there, but in saying that, if you are going to make the trip, doing it week 1 when you're fresh is the perfect time to do so. Jackson Garden Bishop at 10. I think he's probably the most underrated pickup for Moana this offseason. He's going to steer a good ship, run the cutter, and play textbook football. Just put them in the right areas to score points and bring that consistency that I think they've been lacking in the pivot role. I like Moana here, especially on that plus 7.5 line. And I'm going to have a cheeky little nibble on that 1-12 at $4 too. So in summary, my bets for this weekend, your safe ones, are going Crusaders, Tars, Chiefs, all head-to-head. I'm going Drua on the line and Moana on the line too. And if you multi that up, I've done a little magic multi here, going for the perfect round bet. Crusaders, Chiefs, Tars head-to-head. Then I've got alternative lines of the Drua plus 12.5, Moana plus 16.5 for a little bit of insurance there. That gets you $14.20. Follow me in at your own peril. That Chiefs game still makes me nervous. I just hope the boys from the mighty Waikato can pull this one off and start their season in a winning way. Mentioned there my ladder predictions as well. I said on last week's pod I'll give them to you this week. Spoke to Jimmy Mars, who didn't jam her in the Super Rugby segment, but I'll blast them out for you now. At the end of this regular season, coming first I have the Chiefs, then I have the Blues, and third the Brumbies, and fourth the Crusaders, a big bounce back year for them, and fifth, the biggest movers in the comp for me, I have the Tars. I just think their squad on paper is too strong. Then, from 6th through to about 9th, I have 1 to 2 wins separating all these teams. A real logjam. You could probably throw 5th in there with the Tars as well. But in 6th, I have the Drua. Mentioned before, they got 8 home games this year. I think you need to win 7 to make the top 6 and play finals football. If they can pick up 7 of their 8 at home, like they did last year, just losing the 1 at home, then I think you have to have them in the finals calculations. I think they got 32, 33 international players as well. They got a deep squad. So I've got the Drua in at 6th. At 7th, probably the hardest done-by team for me, and I could see them beating the Tars and jumping them on the table too. I have the Reds. Do expect them to be good. I just think logjam. Then in 8th, I got the Canes. Tough for them. No first 5. Think they might struggle a little. In 9th, I got the Landers. Don't feel great about that with Jamie Joseph at the helm, and I hope they do a whole lot better than that. But I've just got them there for this sake. In 10th, I've got Moana. Expect them to be much improved, but I still think they'll finish the season with 4 or 5 wins, which is pretty good, maybe 5 or 6, but just not enough in a tight comp this year. And then winning the Spoon, I've got the Western Force. Just nothing about that team really excites me. They have recruited reasonably nice, some low-key pickups. Got a couple lads in my fantasy team from the Force as well. That flanker, Tackles McGee, he's in the mixer for me. But I just expect that wins are going to be hard to come by for the lads from Perth. NRL punting. Trial bets for this Warriors game up against the Melbourne Storm. I'm not going to run you through every game because some of them are real Daryl toughies to watch. So I'm just going to go Wars into All-Stars, my best bets for those two. Warriors, head-to-head, $1.53. The Storm, outsiders for this one. Of course, that's based on the squads that have been selected. Wars rolling out the majority of the big dogs. The line is set at 5.5. I like the Warriors head-to-head, $1.53. I like us to cover that line as well at $1.90. In terms of your winning team and margins, you probably go 1 to 12 because the Storm just one of those teams that don't roll over, but 13 plus, I'll always have a cheeky little side bet on, and I don't blame you if you follow me in there. Your try scorers, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, the snack, the king of calves, $1.85 on his first trot for the year. I love that. Tane Tuopiki, of course, scored last week, $2.40, wearing the 1 jersey out the back of a nice little sweeping play. Got to factor him in. Big Dimitrik Vaimolga, $4.40 for him. I reckon that's a good long shot, especially if he lines up in the second row, punching down lines off our halves, just a big body, close to the line, skillful too. He's going to be hard to stop. He could also collect a nice little bat back off a nudge into the in goal. Always seems to be around the ball. Does Big Demi for the Storm. So far, Longo at $2.35. Decent shout for him, the Goosey God. Your NRL All-Stars, Māoris, favourites, $1.57. Indigenous, $2.40. Outsiders, I like us head-to-head. I like the Māori minus 4.5 on that line at $1.96. Generous there. And then I also like us 13 plus at $3. I think on paper we're by far the stronger team, so hopefully the lads can put it out on the paddock. For your try scorers, the Brick, $1.88, AKP, $2.10. Nice little Wicked Wingers multi there. Then you got the Brick at $4.10 for 2 or more, and AKP at $5 for 2 or more. Both of those are good value. I think we're going to score plenty of points on the Stings. For the Indigenous, the Hammer, he's always on my bet slips, especially at $2.20. In a new relationship, seems to be loved up. You know, happy wife, happy life. If everything's good at home, you play good footy. So I expect him to have another huge year. Then for your big boppers, I think Joshy Curran, the mulleted menace at $5.20. And Connor Watson, the young New South Wales hot boy, in for a massive year. In the 9 jersey, probably for the Chooks, and in the 9 jersey here too. $6.80 for him. That's pretty good shopping right there. In terms of everything else, all the other sporting action this weekend, you can get on the Caps. Whoever we play in the final, I'm backing us to beat them. Liverpool, we will bounce back and smoke Everton this morning. That game's probably either live or done by the time you're listening to this. You'll never walk alone redemption season. AFC, like us on the double chance, win or draw against Western United. I think that's a good shout. We're on the road. Western United coming 3rd or 4th. Decent side. They've drawn their last 2 games. Love a draw. We're paying $1.50 for the win or draw, and the straight-up draw is paying $3.50 as well, so something to factor in there. And then in the Six Nations, week off, so you can use that money in your punting budget, your portfolio, allocate it elsewhere, have a flutter, maybe the NBA, stack line up today, so you can spend your hard-earned cash on the old basketball. Q&A, chuck the story up on the old Instagram. As always, really appreciate everyone for chucking them through. I'll do my best to speed this through. Wary of time, I've been dragging this bad boy on. They'll be calling me a Giannis Morissette shortly. But first few questions come through from Taylor CG, who says, any North Harbour signing news? And Warren Gatland and Bryn Gatland back to Harbour, ? Huge Harbour Heat fan, of course. leader of the Furnace, one of the elite fan bases in New Zealand sport. In terms of Harbour news, still rumours Julian Savia will be applying his trade for the mighty Harbour Heat, but that's unconfirmed. Would love to have Warren Gatland at the helm. Believe they're looking for a new coach as well. Bryn Gatland, he'd be a massive name to bring back, although surely the lucrative yen in Japan is just too much money for him. I do think there's a few players and a few roster spots we need to fill. There's good talent in the club scene, so we could fill them internally, but I'm sure Harbour are looking far and wide to pull off some recruits. It is only February too. We're about 6 months out from the NPC, but I'll keep you posted as things unfold there, lad. Next one, more chat on Liverpool's beautiful loss. Yeah, look, Nick, already touched on that. Bit of a dig there from you. Really appreciate it, mate. Matt Corbett says, why no compensation for releasing young players to Oz Club? Surely a transfer fee or a player. I mentioned that in the pod the other week. I was a bit surprised. I was happy that we let Zion go for opportunities because, as I said, one day we might get him back because we haven't left a sour taste in his mouth. We haven't held him back. So we could pick him back up in his prime. I did mention that. I was surprised. No transfer fee? Surely, what do we get from this, letting him go early? Surely there's some type of compensation in some shape or form. Maybe they could give us Marcelo Montoya back. We can get that veteran winger that we desperately need. Now we lost Dal. I agree with you there, Corb's horse. I certainly think that we should have got something in return from that deal, and that should be something that's written in the rules. Surely you see it in all other sports, so why not the NRL? Next one, Caleb says, is it our year finally? Abso-fucking-lutely it is, lad. Book your float now for the championship parade down Queen Street. She's going to be absolute scenes. Eru says, what young stars are you looking forward to seeing play in the NRL this season? Obviously, very Warriors focused, and straight away, the names that jump out to me are a part of what I like to call the Penrose Pentagon, which is young Lecker, Dimitrik, Ali Lautoa, Jacob Laban and Sam Healy. I think those are our 5 young, brightest prospects at the moment in the NRL top 30. Of course, there's a number of others too. You could chuck in Tanner, Eddie, Toby Crosby, Bishop Neal, Kahu Kappa, but I don't think those names will be playing a lot of first grade, if any at all this year. Probably still a year or so away. But that Penrose Pentagon, they get me up and about. Future's so bright for Warriors fans, and I'm so keen to see them ripping this year. Then when you look around the comp, Keanu Keeney, he impressed me massively for the Kiwis. I also really enjoyed Casey McLean and the shift that he put in for the Kiwis too. Keen to see how he goes at Penrith. I'm assuming he's going to take Sunia Taruva's spot on the wing. There's a lot of young Kiwi lads across the competition that hopefully with more opportunities this year should rip and tear too. But yeah, those 5 I named for the Warriors are certainly the main ones on my radar. Next one comes through from Adam, who says Tanner Boyd and Metcalf, the halves for the Warriors this year. Not so sure about Tanner. Said in that league segment that I'm a little bit gutted for him. He's missed both trials, so he's probably going to have to start the season playing cup footy and trying to work his way in. Metcalf, I definitely think he's our 7. So now it comes down to how the other 3 can complement him and fight for the 6 jersey. A lot of people were saying Tanner at 7, Met at 6, but all signs we've seen so far suggest that that isn't going to be the case. I rate the problem we've got, though. We've got 4 good halves there. You've got to fit them into 2 spots. Key to have depth. We've already seen injuries can hurt. Shit, did they hurt us last year? So I think it's a good problem to have, having too many numbers. 4 doesn't go into 2, but it means next cab up off the rank if we do cop another blow. And your last question comes through from Caleb, who says, what's good, brother? Couple things. Do you reckon Tane Tuopiki could be a wee smoky to take Dallins' spot in Vegas? Him, CNK and RTS coming out of our end sounds hot. Also, a question I've thought about for a wee while. What do you think is some of the greatest one-line sporting moments by a commentator? Sure. Yeah, that's a great question, Caleb. Double up there too, which I really do rate. The first part of it, do I think Tane could be a smoky? Absolutely. My only concern about him on a wing, potentially, is when you come up against some big bodies, like a Xavier Coates or someone like that. And saying that, the Raiders, they don't really have any monsters in terms of height-wise on the wing. So I think he'll be perfect for this first-up game. There's also ways you can tinker it too. Last tackle, fourth tackle, you could drop him to the back or move him into centre, push an Ali or a taller body out onto the wing for last tackle, someone who's a bit more of a leaper and can get up and try to fuse those aerial threats. But like you said, Tane out of his own half, I love the work he does straight, then he goes lateral with a bit of late movement sideways once he gets to the D-line. Because he's so fast and nippy, it makes it so hard for it to tackle him, and then he creates opportunities for line breaks off the back of that. So I would love the thought of having Tane on the wing, round one. Geez, you could do a lot worse off than that. There's also the option of playing him at the back, moving Chance to the centres and shifting one of our centres to the wings as well. That is also a good option, so keen to see what Webby does there. Then, second part of the question in terms of your great one-liners, off the top of my head straight away, you think of a few. Justin Marshall with the boomfa. I think that one will go down in New Zealand rugby history. Murray Megstead used to have some doozies thinking rugby there as well. Keith Quinn with his Jonah Lomu call as he steamed over Mike Catt. That's also an iconic one. Vossi in the NRL always has some good ones. He's got a good sense of humour. Vossi, Rabs, I'm sure he's got a fuck ton of them too. In terms of most iconic though, one that really stands out for me has to be in the NBA. Mark Jackson with the old mama. There goes that man. Whenever someone pulls off an incredible play, particularly in playoffs, you can think of all these moments like Ray Allen hitting that championship winning three, LeBron, countless plays from him, that chase down block on Iguodala. You know when Mark Jackson pulls that out, it was a massive play in the game's biggest moments. So that's probably the biggest one for me. Would love to hear your thoughts on those there, Caleb, both Tane and those commentator moments. Flick them through to me there, lad. As always, really appreciate your questions. There's always heaps that flick through after I've recorded as well, so apologies if I miss them. Chance to go again next week. I'll chuck up the box and you can fire them through. So another pod in the box yet again. An exciting weekend of sport to look forward to. How bloody good is it all? So enjoy your weekend of sport. Good luck if you're having a cheeky little flutter on the TAB. Green ticks on bet slips. That is my wish for you. And I'll catch you back here, same time, same place, next week. How good?